Hello there everyone, it's Pazbees, and in today's video we will be reviewing the best nukes in Anime Last Stand. So we'll be getting this information straight from the ALS info doc. So without any further ado, let's begin, shall we? So there's a lot of nukes in the game. New nukes get added, reworked, such as the Sukuna nuke. We're going to go from the bottom to the top. There's 6 pages. The bottom of the page we have Cursed King. His nuke does 2500% of the unit's damage. The circle AoE and applies 3000% flame damage. 400 second cooldown. I don't believe I've ever used that nuke at all. I didn't even realise. No, that's Fuga, right? That's Fuga. His OG Fuga. I didn't realise it was that good because, you know, when he's at that Evo, he's kind of really low. Then we go to Sid. Unevo, grade 7, 500 million, which is horrible. This unit is doing double that now, nearly triple that. Phaeton is actually a very, very new unit, so him being quite low on the list is kind of odd, but it makes sense since he was a infinite castle unit. It does 10 times the unit's damage and applies sunburn off that. Enemies who are hit permanently take more damage and are slowed. Okay. Next is Saitama Serious, and he does 32 times the unit's damage on the full map with the 200 second cooldown, which is a fairly low cooldown. After that is one of the best damage per second units in the game right now, and that's Super Kefla. She does 25 times the unit's damage and applies Detonate off of that. It's only in her range, but she stuns. She gets herself stunned, but gains the damage after it, and she just stacks and stacks and stacks from what we're aware. After that is Saber Unevo, which does 18,000% of the unit's damage over 6 ticks, which is really good for bosses like Sukuna, how he has that shield, because it will tick down 6 times. But it's kind of bad because it has an infinite cooldown. Next is Topo. He insta-kills the strongest enemy, excluding the boss. 500 cooldown. It's one enemy. That's kind of horrible. Beerus is the same cooldown, same everything. Next, we have probably the lowest cooldown nuke on the entire game and on the entire list, which is Dio over Heaven the Godly. It does 5 times the unit's damage. It's based on his range, it has an 8-second time stop and a 35-second cooldown, which is insanely low. If you put Sukuna for the 20% ability reduction, as well as the Soul of Rapid Recovery, which adds an extra 10%, that's 30%, meaning it'll be going down to about 23, 24 seconds, which is crazy. Then we've got Ainz. Ainz does 150 times his damage, 900 second cooldown. It's good, but there's so much better, which is like Sid's Unevo, 10 billion. Then we've got Sid, 10 billion, and converts the damage dealt to base HP, which doesn't work no more since they created stacks, because they've not reworked him, which honestly gives me so much hope for Sid. Because he's a very popular unit, nobody can deny that. Shadow is one of the most popular units. He's still traded to this day, people still want him, yet they've not reworked him. He was added, then he was unobtainable, then he was re-added with an Evo, he's unobtainable again, and rather than fixing his nuke, they've just kind of been silent about him. So I'm guessing they're adding another Evo. They might add him back again for summer maybe or something with a new Evo. Maybe like his, is it John Smith Evo? The one where he's like really money hungry with the strings and everything. But let me know down below what you think about this, because his nuke is useless right now. But yeah, let me know what you think. Next is Gojo, 9 billion full map. I believe this is the unboosted Gojo. Then we've got Gremmer, one of the most like new player friendly nukes, 15 billion. You watch, 15 billion. Saber Altar, 15 billion, but also buffs with it. Cursed Child, another new unit, Utah. Heavenly Ladder, so this is his first nuke he gets. He does 5 times his current damage and applies Bolt with that. So he does roughly 1 billion on his, if you get like a good trait and everything. So we're doing 5 billion plus the Bolt, and it permanently inflicts extinguish on all enemies, which is a new sort of dot. Next we got Freezer with a 30 billion nuke, 200 second cooldown, which is okay. Then we got Sun Jin Woo with a 20 billion nuke, 500 second cooldown, but when you nuke it buffs his damage and all his shadows damage. Then we got Boosted Noelle, one of the coolest and like most. She's been tournament meta for a few runs now. 35 billion damage, but the thing with this is it's a 150 second cooldown, which is really good. Then there's Kashimo. I've currently not actually evolved him. I've got him avatar, but I saw his damage is something like 100 million, which is horrible. Like that's 100 million with glitched I saw, I'm pretty sure. Right, so but his nuke does 50 times his damage, so it'll be like, what's that, 5 billion? And applies Bolt off of that. He then gains 100% crit chance, minus 50 SPA, plus 25% range, and plus 35% dot. So that could be good if it's permanent, because then he'll be hitting like once every second, and it would eventually add up to over 100 DPS. Next, anyway, is Madara, 50 billion, full map, 1000 second cooldown. Then we've got Beast Gohan, 200 billion, full map to the strongest enemy, single target, infinite cooldown. Horrible. These single target ones I think are absolutely horrible. We got Gogeta, pretty sure that's the old one, I'm not too sure though. A single target but deals 60% of the current HP to bosses, which is actually fairly decent since it's a 240 second cooldown. That means if there's a boss with 7 trillion, it's not 7 trillion, sorry, 1 trillion HP, he'll be doing 600 billion damage. If there's a boss with a 1 quintillion HP, he'll be doing 600 trillion. So that's actually really good. I didn't even know about that one myself. Then we've got Gilgamesh. I believe this is his regular one. 75 billion. Full map and kills all enemies under 25% health, which I really like these percentage nukes. Then we've got Kaido. 75 billion. Full map. Buffs the damage of the units that do bolt and electrify, so he's really good for Wukong, since it buffs all the clones, but sadly it's an infinite cooldown which lets it down a lot. Then we've got Fused Zamasu, 80 billion, full map, and reduces bosses HP by 10%. So if you actually combined the Gogeta one with the Fusamatsu to get the boss down to 70% HP, and then deal 5% damage yourself, you can use Gilgamesh's to instantly kill him. But I'm pretty sure Luffy does another 20%, so you could just use Gogeta and whatever. Anyway, next one, Cosmic Garou, Cosmic Mode. Single, instantly kills the strongest enemy in range and adds the HP of the enemies to his damage cap of 5 billion. So I use Cosmic Mode more than I use Baldy Mode. I'll admit I've only used Baldy about twice. And this ability is cool, but it doesn't last too long. The best part about this is because if you're in Cosmic Mode anyway, you'll get Cosmic Dust, which deals 5% of your damage every second to every enemy in your whole range. Meaning 5 billion. 5% is, what is it, so 10% would be 500 million, 250 million, so you'll be doing 250 million per second to every enemy in range, which makes it really good, but again it doesn't last too long. Then we've got Cosmic Garou Baldy Mode, 100 times the current damage, so I'm going to guess it's around 1 billion if you get the right stats and stuff, so 100 billion, that's fair. Steal 20% of up to 5 units damage and add it to his own. Okay. Tatsumaki kills 1% of the unit's damage. Also, I believe Tatsumaki's, it doesn't say here, has the one where she builds it up, so if she gets 1,000 kills, it's 1,000 times her damage, which can be really good in Infinite. But again, if you read here, it says it resets it, which isn't the best. Then we got Yuach boosted, 20 billion times the number of units that got stolen, which I believe is capped at something, so I don't know why this is so high up. Steal 10% of unit damage from all units in range. Also, it does all of them, but it's a cap of 200, which made me believe it was 20 units. So it's what, like a 400 billion nuke? It can be, pretty sure, something like that, which is decent. We got Anos with his pre-7th use. He deals 70 billion. So if you didn't know Anos, he has 7 clicks on his nuke, and his last one does the best. But Anos pre-7th does 70 billion, removes 2 base stocks until 1 stock remains. It keeps doing that over and over until the last one. We got Cursed Child, Heavenly Ladder Maximum, so that once you've used the first Heavenly Ladder of Yuta, you get this one, which does 25 times his damage plus the bolt. It also permanently inflicts Extinguish again, and it has a 1,500 second cooldown, which is 5 times better than the last one. It's really good. You know, applying bolt off the top of it is just a really good bonus. Right, next we've got Gilgamesh. 100 billion, this is the boosted version of Gilgamesh. Instantly kills all enemies under 30% HP. Gain 0.5% more damage per enemy killed with the ability cap of 40% more damage. So I never boosted Gilgamesh. I always planned to, but by the time I actually got around to it, he got his godly anyway. So I just skipped straight to it. Next is the reworked Sukuna. So the Sukuna Divine Flames. 25 times his current damage and applies Sunburn. So since Sukuna is a godly with a dot, he does initially have less raw damage, but it's still very, very good. If you're on Vow 4 though, which is, it used to be his old nuke, but now it's just a passive that cycles every few seconds, it'll deal 50 times the current damage and apply Sunburn off it, which for a 250 second cooldown on a godly is very good. Then we've got Saitama Deadly Serious. He'll be doing 300 times his current damage, insta-kills all enemies under 33%, and increases damage by 35%, 1,000 second cooldown. Like I said, it's good if you're trying to get a specific enemy killed. Like, if you whittle down their health using percentage nukes, you can easily get what you need. Then we've got Luffy Gear 5. 150 billion nuke. Enemies hit take 50% more crit damage for 100 seconds, 1,000 second cooldown. So this one's good, but the bonus you get from it isn't the best. Like, some do better. Like, if he applied something like Bolt off of that would be decent. Next we have Asta. Asta's actually a very, very good unit, and I believe he's going to be getting a godly, a full devil godly, so getting a good trait on him now is very good, especially since he's high DPS anyway. But he does 200 billion plus 25% of the unit's total damage. After you use this nuke, he also gains 2 random permanent status effects. You can get lucky and get something like Black Flame and, I don't know, a really good one, or you could get unlucky and get something like, I don't know, what's a really old item? Is it called Frost or Freeze? And something like Slow. But it's completely random. You could get really lucky, really unlucky, or half and half. Okay, next we have Canrod. 50 times infinite damage. That's because once you do it, once you click the nuke, a unit gets stunned for 35 seconds, but Canrod deals 50 billion damage. Every time you use the ability, it goes up by another 50. So it goes 50, 100, 150, 200, so on and so forth, infinitely. 250 second cooldown, which is kind of high, but if you use everything right, if you're in a long infinite run, he can potentially do infinite damage. Next we have Rimuru, 10 billion to 500 billion. So it does deal 10 billion damage times the number of enemies in this unit's range. So for it to do 500 billion, you would need 50 enemies in the unit's range. Once it does this, it gets plus 5% damage per kill for the next 60 seconds with a cap of 500, with a 700 second cooldown. So it's decent, not the best, but you know, it's viable. Rimuru's an old unit, so the fact that he's still quite high up is really good. Julius, okay. Julius does 0 to 7.5 trillion. It doesn't say here, but how his works is every time he hits an enemy, they get afflicted by some time status effect or the passive that he has, and the more he hits them, he steals. I think it's a certain amount of health. It might be 200 billion from him, or something like that. But the more he hits, the more he stacks up, and you get to save up 7.5 trillion. You can use it whenever you want. You could use it at 1 million. You could use it at 5 trillion. But once you use it, it's infinite cooldown, which is kind of cool. The next is Kenjaku Uzumaki. Personally, one of my favourite units right now. I love his summons. He deals 10 to 500 billion. So his is based on his summons. It doesn't say it here, but he'll deal 10 billion damage times the amount of summons he has. So he gets summons by killing enemies. So you'll need him to summon 50 summons to deal the 500 billion. Which, if you deal, I think, 200 billion, it lets you get his second nuke, which we'll hopefully see in a minute. But next we have Gilgamesh's Enuma Elish, which is a 200 to 400 second cooldown based on how many, based on if you use it before, I think, 150 charge or after 150. But it does 105 billion to 305 billion, which is very nice. It applies weaken, hemorrhage, and the unit gains more damage, range, and less SBA from it, which is fairly cool. Next is Boosted Gojo, which is 400 billion. Full map, 1500 second cooldown. It has a cast time, which I hate these cast time ones. It decreases damage of all units on the map by 25% and range by 20% for 30 seconds. And it's a good nuke, you know. Gojo Boost is one of the first boosted units people get. And yeah, it's good, but it's getting out of date fast. Next we've got Anos's 7th use. So after you've done the 6 nukes that I was talking about before, you get the 7th, which deals 10 trillion damage. It has the biggest cooldown, 750 seconds, but it also time stops every enemy and makes them all lose 25% of their current HP. So it's kind of a really cool nuke. Next though, we have Madoka. So if you didn't know, her nuke used to deal 1 trillion. But they nerfed it to deal 750 billion plus 30% boss HP, plus an extra 15% if the enemy is... plus normal enemies get 15 of their health took. But if it's a special type of enemy, so I think that means Speedy, Brute, Giant, the nuke deals double damage, which is still very, very nice. It also increases all damage output sources such as dot damage, crit damage, all that stuff. Sadly, an infinite cooldown. Next we have Goku, Mastered Ultra Instinct, the Godler. His nuke is the one where you click it. It does 100 billion to 22 trillion, which is crazy because it's a full map. The nuke has to be charged. It's 10 billion times the number of clicks times the units in the unit's range. So you're always going to get the 10 clicks no matter what. So you're always going to get 100 billion. But then you need, so that's 100 billion, and you want to get 22 units in your range, and that'll get you the crazy cap. Okay, then we got Kenjaku's Uzumaki Maximum, which you can only use like Yuta's if you use the first Uzumaki. So this deals between 50 billion and 12.5 trillion. It insta-kills the strongest enemy on the map and summons a unit with 1,000 times this unit's damage. If you get Kenjaku right, he'll deal about 1 point something billion damage, let's say 1 billion. So 1,000 times that is up to 12, I think it's up to 10 trillion. So he summons an enemy that has 10 trillion health on top of the already 12 trillion nuke dealt. So it's kind of like a double hit, you know? Next is Rika. So this is the summon of Yuta. And her beam does 400 times Yuta's damage. So Yuta hits at 1 billion. So it's 400 billion damage and applies fear to all the enemies hit. And this is full map. And the most crazy part is it's a 150 second cooldown. 150 seconds for that is crazy. Next we got one of Sukuna's other new reworked nukes is Evil Shrine, the one you need to make Yujo. It's full map, enemies hit take 2 times damage from Sukuna's Shred passive. Shred is kind of like, I think it used to be called Black Flame on him, or Dark Flame or something. It's where every few seconds he'll deal damage to all enemies in his range, kind of like a raw ability. But this nuke has 500 seconds cooldown. Then Sukuna has the World Slash ability, which you get on his, I think it's chant, something like his highest chant, it cycles back round to it, but this one deals 7.5 trillion and ignores all elemental resistance. So no matter what, it'll always just hit for solid damage and doesn't get reducted at all. This one sadly does have an infinite cooldown though. Then we got Gilgamesh's combined noble special Enuma Eilish, which deals 10,000 times his damage. So before we get into that, let's just read its little perk. Instantly kill enemies below 35% HP, time stop all enemies for 30 seconds, applies despair and hemorrhage and slow enemies for 50% for 30 seconds after the time stop ends. So the best thing about this is it applies the hemorrhage off the nuke's damage, I believe. So Gilgamesh does on average 1.3 billion damage. If you use Idol buff as well as Enkaido, because Enkaido buffs Gilgamesh, and a few other buffs mixed in there with the right skill tree and all that, you could possibly get him up to 3 billion damage. But let's just say 2 billion, let's just be safe, because 2 billion is very reasonable for Gilgamesh. So 2 billion times 10,000, that's 20 trillion, I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check, I'm pretty sure it's 20 trillion. So 2 billion times 10,000, it is millions, but yeah, 20 trillion, so it's 20 trillion. And then that applies hemorrhage off of that. And let me just check what hemorrhage is again. So ALS status effects. Because if it applies hemorrhage off of the nuke itself, it's crazy damage. Because we've already got 20 trillion, which could go up to 30 if you use the right nukes. But hemorrhage deals 1.4x. Which is, what's that, 8? So, is it 28 trillion? Yeah, 28 trillion. So it deals 20 trillion and then 28 trillion hemorrhage, which is crazy. By far the most overpowered nuke in the game. Except, so what you have to think about is the maximum amount of enemies that can spawn is around 120. So this can hit 120 enemies for, let's just say 50 trillion, okay? It's crazy. But Wangling, my goat, the Ramen King himself, his nuke, infinite cooldown, instantly kills all enemies, not bosses unless it's infinite. It's not all enemies unless they've changed it. Actually no, I think it is all enemies now. It used to be 30 enemies, but I think they actually changed it to all enemies. So his nuke, pretty sure, cancels out any nuke resistance, because obviously it's not damage based, it's just dead. So it used to be 30, but it's not, which makes it even better. It ignores the HP. You could be on wave 600 on a nightmare mode, and an enemy could spawn with guessing on that wave, they got to have something like, I don't know, 900 quintillion HP, and Wangling will just snap them out of existence. That's why his nuke is on the top without any damage at all, because it instantly kills. What do you guys think about the nukes? Which one's your favourite? Is there any you think they've missed? Because I know there's a few buffs that seem like nukes and stuff like that. But what do you guys think? Which one's your least favourite? Which one's your most favourite? Which ones do you look forward to unlocking? Which ones do you think have the best side effects, like applying hemorrhage or ignoring resistance? But yeah, thank you for watching. Feel free to join the Discord in the bio of the video, in the description of the video. Feel free to comment any videos you'd like making in the future. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.